Welcome to the Functional Health Coaching Show, where we are here to support and answer your questions so that you can help people on a deeper level get real results and grow your health coaching business. Do you have questions you want to ask live on the show? You can call in every Friday at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 1-347-637-1378. Are you looking to increase your credibility and grow your health coaching business using functional lab testing and data-driven protocols so that you can confidently solve health issues? Well, we have the course for you. Go to fdn.today/show to learn more and sign up today. Okay, let's join today's episode.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. It's November 20th, 2020. You've tuned in to the FDN Fantastic Friday Call, once again, otherwise known as the Functional Health Coaching Show. And we're happy to be with you again this week. We'll be off next week for Thanksgiving, but we'll definitely have a good full hour here with you guys this week to help support you in all things functional diagnostic nutrition. Long-standing tradition here to have this call on a Friday afternoon and connect with you guys on any support that you need, no matter where you are in this process. If you're a practitioner and you are out there working, doing the awesome, fun, fulfilling work of FDN, you need some help on some cases, right? So questions about that, or if you want to talk about a little bit of business or marketing. Of course, if you're a trainee and you're working your way through the FDN course, working towards your certification, we want to help you there as well. So maybe some concepts or topics you need some clarification on, or something you're just trying to fit in with the puzzle, like a puzzle piece into FDN. How does this fit in that I knew maybe prior to coming to FDN? How does that fit in with the FDN paradigm, the way that we think? We're happy to help you, work through those things. Or if you are looking at taking this course, we've had a large number of graduates this week, and a few of those folks looked at the FDN course for more than a year or 2 years or 3 years, trying to decide, hey, is this the right timing for me? What is this? What are these people about? What do they do? We hope that this show does give you a feel for that as well. So helping you make that decision, if that's a direction you want to take, if you're adding that to what you're already doing as a career, or if you're doing something in the natural health realm, or like many people, including myself, making a total career change. Maybe this is one of those stepping stones toward that career change. I would say it's probably one of the best ones you'll ever make is taking the FDN course and getting connected with awesome community. So welcome all you guys to the call today, to wherever you're coming from. And so my name is Brandon Mollet. I'm an FDN practitioner and honored to host the Friday calls here for a few years now in place of our founder, Reed Davis, and get to do some consulting, get to do some verbal finals, which is the last step in the certification process, and like to consult with you guys on your lab work as well as your cases. So as well as pretty decent client load myself of personal clients that I get to help with this. So it's FDN all the time for me, just a little different feel for it depending on the day. But I love what we get to do, love the mission, so happy to be with you. And then I've also got my co-host, Ryan Monahan, and he's got all those titles as well, in addition to a few others. And we're here to help support you today, but I want to say hi to Ryan. Ryan, man, how are you?
Oh, hey there. I'm doing great. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks for asking. Excited to be here on the call and taking some questions.
Very good. Very good. So we've got a few written in, but you guys are welcome to call in and ask a question. So it's always fun to have live callers. I do get a little visibility with that. I do see a lot of you guys there tuning in here, just listening. And if you want to be a part of the show, you can do that. So if you've already called in, hit 1 on your keypad. That will let me know that you want to ask a question or make a comment. You can add to the conversation. That's fine too. If you want to call in and ask a question live here, number to do that, you have to go the old-fashioned way, 347-637-1378. Again, 347-637-1378. And again, hit 1 on the keypad. I'll call out your area code to get your name. We'll answer your question or two, depending on how much time we have. And that'll make the show. So I do have a follow-up to one question call last week, so we'll have a little part 2 here of helping this FDN practitioner with a few questions that she has. But Otherwise, I do want to shift over here and congratulate some folks. So every week we have graduates from this amazing FDN course, and we've shifted some things around to try to make it easier for you guys more quickly to graduate. And so we've got a few more than average. Last few weeks we've had that. So I've got 7 people here that I want to say congratulations to making it through this course, and again, adding it to what they're already doing. A lot of times the lab work is something that we're not as familiar with. It's not where I started for sure. I started with just good old-fashioned dress, right? So, hey, learn to not eat junk. And I know I need to exercise, and what can I do to help my sleep? And need to drink more water, and maybe manage my stress a little more differently. Those things. A lot of us start out with those, just the good basic principles that are pretty much always going to be there. That's ones you want to get really good at. That's the foundation of what we do. But the lab testing was something that I didn't have access to or understanding how to interpret and how that worked into a protocol. I did a lot of guessing on myself. Ryan, I think you went through the same thing. You do what you know. You read some books. You talk to some people. You try to observe. You get on Dr. Google and you look around. You try to figure out some things. Instead of Dr. Google, I probably went to Dr. Mercola or Dr. Axe or other doctors that are out there looking for information. But I didn't have that lab access, didn't have the understanding there of what that starts to reveal, because those labs reveal one thing is the hidden stressors, things I did not know about. I didn't know this imbalance was going on, or this was present, or this was affecting this way, or I have all this knowledge, but what do I do with it all? What's right for me? Well, lab testing can help you decide what is the right path for you. So if you're missing knowledge, lab work gives you knowledge that's missing. And if you have too much information, too much knowledge, then it can help you pinpoint really what to focus on and what to do. So that ultimately gets quicker results, compresses time. That's what we're doing as practitioners, is compressing time for people. I know Ryan has talked about his story and mine too. I spent a lot of years trying to figure some things out. Look back, I wouldn't trade that. I learned a lot through that process there. But I probably would have liked to speed up just a little bit, and FDN could have done that if I was aware of it. So, regardless of where you're at and how you're working through, maybe it's your own health journey. Many of these people here on this list have their own health journey that they're working through. They're trying to improve their health, and that happens many times through the course, which is one reason that I took the course, because that was part of it. Hey, I get to run labs on myself, plus I get to learn how to interpret these. Sounds like a 2-for-1 deal. So we have 7 here that we want to congratulate, and we are, let's see. Oh, hey, we're all over the world again. So we'll start here with Amanda Gallagher from Texas, and then Leah Foley from Australia. How great. Nathan Bright from Arizona. Tracy Williams here in North Carolina. 2 from Las Vegas today. I don't know what the deal is with Las Vegas, but we're happy about it. I believe it's Arushka Patel and Christina Chow, both from Vegas. And then Michael Angel from California. So 7 amazing graduates. Guys, great job. Congratulations. Ryan, what do you think about that?
That's awesome. 7 graduates, cool. Right? I think we had 8 last week, so seems like the numbers are climbing. I know per usual, or on average, it seems like there's more like 3 or 4 a week. So looks like we're kind of doubling those numbers, which is pretty awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody wants to get through before getting into the holidays. So think of that. In 2 weeks, that's 15 more people working and using FDN to impact the world. So that's 15 times whatever number you want to put on there, impact that it's going to continue to ripple out for years, helping people. So that's what gets me up in the morning is that right there. That's tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well said.
Good. Okay. Well, Ryan, anything you wanted to bring up or talk about here before we jump into questions or take some calls?
Nothing too new. All things are moving pretty steadily over in AFDNP land. So, I always like to kind of make a plug for the AFDNP group, because that's where you're going to get lots of ongoing clinical education and business education. We just recently wrapped up a series covering the stress and hormone panel from Access Labs. I believe this coming week we're going to dive into some of the individual markers on the Dutch test. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Jennifer Woodward and I do a weekly, bi-weekly show called Quick and Nerdy. And we try to keep it to 20 minutes, but it usually ends up being like 40 minutes, where we dive into like one particular topic and go deeper than wide. So I think this coming week, we're going to talk about the methylation index. Ooh, that's pretty nerdy, on the Dutch test, and what that marker means and how to use it like in clinical applications. So those are the kinds of things like we'll go into depth into like one very particular nuanced topic rather than doing these broader overviews. So that's pretty fun. I'm also going to be joining Jennifer once a month now, doing some detective hour stuff. So, and of course, I'm always in the group answering lots and lots of clinical questions. I pop my head in there probably half a dozen times a day. I try to answer everyone's questions. I always come up a little short, but I do try. There's a lot of questions in the group there. It helps me to kind of push my knowledge and refresh, certain concepts that maybe I haven't thought about in a while. So it's good for me too to constantly be flexing those mental muscles, clinical muscles, and Jennifer's often in there answering kind of more business-oriented questions. We're a good team over there. So fun group, always indeed. Lots of good stuff going on over there. So our goal is to try to make sure that all FDN graduates are part of the professional association of FDN practitioners. So. Right now I think there's about 450 or so members of that group, but we want to make sure to recruit more people and keep growing that group. So head on over there, guys. Give it a try. You could always, just try it for one quarter. Believe it's $100 for a 3-month subscription. You could always end it at any time, but at least give it a try. And I think you'll see the value in it pretty quickly.
100%. We haven't maybe talked about origins of AFDNP in a little while. I might just touch on that for a minute, so you guys know. Sure. I never know who's on this call, and if it's a trainee that's moving through the course, you don't hear you hear some about AFDNP. So I definitely do let you know more about that towards the end, because you do need to focus on the matter at hand and getting through the materials. But actually, just like many things with FDN, we said, hey. Polling our graduates, said, hey, what do you need? How's it going? We try to keep in touch with you after you complete the certification to get a feel for where you guys are lacking, or you need some help, or you need some support, because it's never been Reed's mission at all with the course just to have people to graduate. And hey, we've got 5,000 graduates to the FDN course. That's great. That's one thing, and there's probably some help within that. But until you're out there, if you choose to have it as a business, part-time, full-time, until you're out there working with people, running labs, having that effect, working through those protocols, the effect of FDN as what it is very minimized. So it's always been about, hey, replicating that, teaching others, growing that. So this has been maybe 4 years, and time flies a little bit. So we really said, hey, we need to do something more. And Reed said, hey, I really want to make an association. I want to give some support in areas that we feel like either the course didn't cover as well at the time, or it was just something maybe kind of outside the scope a little bit of the course. And, you guys do want to finish the course within a reasonable amount of time. The more you put into the course, the longer the course happens to be. So we felt it was better to take some of those next-level principles, the community support, some of the business support, some of the sales support, growing your business, some of those things, and have some in the course, but more is better suited to AFDNP, where it's a little more of a hands-on approach. So this organization and everything it's turned into, which has been pretty amazing to watch it to occur, those are all there set up for you guys to succeed in your business, to grow that. That is not something that Reed said, hey, I've got a way that I can, get a little extra income from you guys, and give you really nothing really in exchange for it. It's always about delivering way more value for $100 every 3 months, just $33 a month. Ridiculous amount of value delivered for that. So that's the thought behind that. Like, hey, you guys talk, we listened. What do you need? And so we continue to do that. You know, we always continue. We're asking for your feedback. Jennifer's asking for feedback. Always have. We like to send out surveys, put up polls. What do you guys want to see? Because that's really what it comes down to. What are you coming up against? What do you need more support in? That's purely what that organization is for. And again, it's been remarkable. So, Association of FDN Professionals. We're folks that aren't really just kicking the tires and monkeying around with it. We're doing it professionally, and if that's the level of support and the level that you want to go to in your business, that is almost an invaluable asset. Talk about, compressing time for our clients. We're compressing time for you as a practitioner, getting to that level. So I want to take a second and let you guys know what that is. We refer to it, make sure you have a good understanding of why that is there, and then, of course, the value let's say it's 3 years old. Maybe I'm off on that. If it's 3 years old, there's 3 years worth of material there that comes already there for you to dive into, and then we're adding every week, every day.
That's awesome, Brandon. Yeah, thanks for that background on AFDNP. A lot of that history I hadn't even heard myself, but it all totally makes sense. And and I totally agree with what you said about kind of checking in on the community regularly, seeing what kind of support that the community is looking for and responding, right? So it's all about, and, we often have, polls in the AFDNP Facebook group, asking the community what kind of education or support they're looking for, or are you running a Dutch test more versus the Access Hormone Panel? Those kinds of questions and surveys can really help us to determine what kind of content to deliver the community. So that's what it's ultimately all about, is serving the broader FDN community and making sure that everyone is feeling supported.
Precisely. That's what it's about. We need it. It's a lot of things that's going on in the world, a lot of things we're up against, a lot of cases, scenarios, and if everybody was the same, there wasn't any biochemical individuality, we may not need something like this. It's just, here's the manual, go fix it. But because there is so much complexity to the body, we do need support. We do need another set of eyes on things. We need another brain thinking through things. That's the same spirit with this call, right? With this, we call it the Friday call, but I guess it's a podcast technically. But this Friday call, it was more like a group conference phone call in the very beginning. It was just whoever wanted to jump on. We just talked about a case. That's how it was set up. So it's always been about that group community support. All right. Cool. Let's jump into some questions. We've got about 40 minutes or so, and we'll cover whatever we can through this. But I do want to start out here. Last week, we had a question written in, and then that FDN practitioner happened to be on the line, Angelique, and she had some questions about a client and what the best steps were moving forward, what she could do. And we took most of the call to talk about that. So I think that was hopefully beneficial there to you guys. So listen back to the first part of this, but then she's sent in another email here with kind of a follow-up to that, which we asked her to do, how more we can help. So I'm going to read that follow-up question. I don't know if she's on the line today. If she is, she can hit one, Angelique, and come on. We'll talk about it there live. Otherwise, we'll keep kind of going from here with the question. I'll keep an eye on the switchboard and see if you're there. So she asked, would the mentors be able to talk to this question tomorrow? So my client I guess I should say this. Let me give a little background of this if you hadn't heard. So Angelique has a potential client or somebody she's coaching, and this person right now, for whatever reason, is not able to or willing to run a full gamut of tests at the moment. So looking for advice on some safe things she could do to address some various symptoms the person has, a few things that's in the history that she's wondering, hey, what can I do that might be safe, might be helpful? And a lot of our response to that, we did try to give some things we thought might be safe in the scenario, but the gist of a lot of this was that this person ideally is going to be better served if they run the labs, if they go ahead and invest and spend 3 to 6 months talking with Angelique and learning from her knowledge and expertise, learning from what she can pull from the community, and going through the coaching process, and then not guessing, not just basing this totally on symptoms or history, things like that. That's going to be the very best level of service to this person. And Ryan and I agreed, in the long run, it always costs less, and the results are better if you go ahead and go fully into it. So we're kind of in agreement on that. So we hit some of those principles. So here's Angelique's follow-up to this one here. So my client who we spoke about last week is considering running the Dutch test as she had PCOS, thyroid issues, and insulin resistance. So PCOS, thyroid, insulin resistance. Before she does, she wanted to focus on her liver because she has done a few hormone labs in the past, hasn't gotten great results as far as losing weight, and thinks her liver is a big part of her weight hormone issues. She also has a gallstone that has gotten smaller due to homeopathic remedies and has tried Stonebreaker, but will try it again. She will also start a liver support supplement and watch high oxalate foods. So the question she's writing in here is the liver gallbladder flush okay for her? She worries about having to go to the hospital because of the stone. We'll talk about kind of the start of this when I give a few comments on there. Maybe they weren't asked for, but we're going to give them. But the last question here, so liver gallbladder flush. So we've talked about those many times here on the call. A lot of times liver gallbladder flushes and coffee enemas, they talked about in the same sentence. So they are different, I guess, healing modalities, things you can do that aren't just supplements, that you can do that does a certain level of detoxification and cleansing to the body. I think coffee enemas maybe have a little bit more history, a little more maybe studies or research behind their effectiveness there versus liver gallbladder flush. It's a little more controversial, if you want to say it that way. I've done many of them. I've had clients do many of them. I've gotten really good results from them. Wouldn't hesitate to do some more. I've done ones along the way here and there. But the question is, with liver gallbladder flush, and we've had this one really before because you want to be smart, right? So everybody's case is going to be a little bit different. So what do you recommend? Is a liver gallbladder flush, in this case, a good thing for her to do? My initial impression is I would not at this juncture for her. I think there's many other things you can do and support before you go to that point. Since you do know you have some stones, you've gotten gallstones or maybe looks like a stone, it's gotten smaller. I would stay more on the side of the Stonebreaker herb, some of the homeopathics, some of those remedies, so to speak, those first, and also do all the lab testing and look upstream and see if we can figure out why some of that burden happens to be causing that scenario to come up in the gallbladder. Lots of potential things behind a gallstone or gallbladder issues overall. But because you do have a known stone, she's kind of concerned about it. Last thing I'm going to do really is going to be a liver gallbladder flush for her because it is more of a mechanical cleanse, right? So the ingredients in that liver gallbladder flush there, it's pretty brilliant, and like I said, it does work very well. It's pretty brilliant. So part of the process there is getting the gallbladder to really contract pretty intensely to excrete lots of bile and lots of sludge or things that can be built up into it to dump into the intestines and the colon and get out. So through this process, the liver gallbladder flush, you'll see little stones. We'll just say they're stones that are flushed out through that process. And there's, of course, always anything in the world there's controversy on what that actually is. I feel like that it is part of sludge, it's part of cholesterol, it's part of bacteria. It's actually stones that are coming out. These are physical little stones you can kind of mush with your finger. They don't always smell very good. They're kind of a gross thing. It's not, in my opinion, at all congealed olive oil, because olive oil is a big part of that process there. I don't think it's congealed fat or fat that's been broken down in some weird way. I don't think it's even chemically possible. Ryan might be able to shed some light on that, but I don't think that's what that is. So I think the time and place for these, but if you know you have a gallstone, the person's scared and concerned about that, it's probably the last thing I'm going to do, maybe not even ever. And the good thing is with FDN, big principle here, we are addressing health challenges for people and function of a person's body from multiple angles. We're not a one-trick pony. Like, oh, I can't use hormone drops with this person. Well, this program's not going to work. Or I can't do liver gallbladder flush. I can't, this person doesn't want to do well with this or that. Because we're hitting so many different angles, if there's 5 angles of the 25 we're hitting it from, don't go well, decide not to do them, you still have enough angles this is being attacked from that ultimately function is going to be improved, the person is going to get better. Just like anything else with health, very rarely is it one cause. There's not a simplified reductionistic way. So if you can't do liver gallbladder flush, like in this case here, many other things we're going to suggest that you do to improve things. So I say no. Let's be safe on that one. Do some other stuff. Ryan, I'll maybe throw it to you here. So liver gallbladder flushes. So what do you know? Do you like them? Have you done them? Am I crazy? You tell me.
You're not crazy at all. I love everything that you said, and I would agree. I don't think that a liver gallbladder flush might not be the first thing that I would want to reach for at this stage, especially without having some lab work to look at. We'd just be guessing at this point without knowing actually what we're doing. I might be more inclined to utilize a more gentle approach, like even digestive, not digestive enzymes, but why am I drawing a blank here? Bitters, using digestive bitters, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe to kind of gently help to stimulate bile flow. Actually, I was just reading about a week ago or so that your liver dumps about 80% of toxins in the body into the bile, right? So, bile is ultimately one of the ways that our body utilizes bile to excrete toxins. The bile gets excreted into the small intestine, and it's carrying all these toxins with it, right? So one thing that digestive bitters can do is kind of help to stimulate bile flow and to thin out the bile, or also choline, the nutrient choline. Like you can take phosphatidylcholine supplements, for example. That's really good at helping to thin out the bile so it doesn't get sludgy or backed up. So that might be kind of a more gentle approach rather than going like full-blown liver gallbladder flush. Just kind of maybe like stimulating the bile flow, thinning it out a little bit so that your liver and gallbladder are more efficiently and effectively dumping out toxins from the body and things aren't getting backed up. Other than that, it's interesting. I'm reading this question here on my end too, and I see she's saying that she thinks her liver has a big part in her weight and hormone issues. That's really the essence there of just guessing, right? I would actually maybe question why she thinks that, right? I mean, it's interesting to speculate, and it certainly could be part of the case. But we know as FDN practitioners that we work on the entire body, non-specifically. And I was kind of philosophizing about this morning, and I had a thought kind of jump into my head that when you're working with a client and you're implementing various diet and lifestyle and supplement protocols, that really the client shouldn't even know, and once you see significant improvement in their main health challenges, their main complaints, the client really shouldn't even know what exactly it was that got them better. Like if you think about that for a second, that's actually a powerful statement. Like the client shouldn't even know like what supplement or what, because our mind, because of the way we're trained to think about single causes and single solutions and silver bullet solutions, we're kind of really trained to think about, it must have been this supplement. It must have been because I went on a paleo diet. It must have been those liver gallbladder flushes. It's like, well, no, actually it was because you were doing all those things at once, right? And those were you were simultaneously restoring your hormone health at the same time supporting your body with the nutrients it needed to support all the different metabolic processes in your body. You were also binding up to toxins in your body, supporting liver function, and you were doing all this at the same time, you don't need to know what it was that worked, right? And the answer is it was all of it, right? So that's like one thing I really try to work on, that paradigm shift, not just with clients, but also, newer FDNs that are, still kind of looking at, you even see questions asked occasionally in the Facebook groups, like, what lab should I run for this health condition? Like, well, that's not how we think. We want to run all the foundational labs and support all body systems, because everything is interconnected. If the thyroid is dysfunctioning, it's not just happening in isolation. It's dysfunctioning in context with gut dysfunction and with liver dysfunction, and you need to support all those areas, right? So if you're just running one lab, if you're just running a thyroid lab by itself, you're somewhat limited in your ability to actually help that person with their thyroid issues. So, swinging back to Angelique's comments and questions here, it goes back to what your earlier comment was, Brandon, that we want to, really encourage her to run some labs for this client, because she might think that it has to do with her liver, and that's likely only part of the equation. There can be a number of factors that can contribute to difficulty, losing weight, or an issue where you're the reverse of that, where you're losing weight and you can't keep weight on. It could be hormonally related, it could be liver related, it could be gut related, it could be thyroid related. So, not to beat a dead horse, but it all needs to be addressed together. But yeah, and then, going back to her specific question, I think there's probably more gentle things I would do to support the liver gallbladder, especially, not knowing what her hormone status is, like if she's in the exhaustive phase of HPA axis dysfunction. You don't want to push the body too hard in somebody whose tank is empty, right? Whose cortisol is bottomed out and has no spark in their body. Are you going to want to be pushing someone really hard into intense detox and intense, pathogen eradication protocols? Probably not, without building a little bit of resilience and spending some time, supporting the body first.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well put. And I'd say if I, looked at, she maybe wants to run a Dutch there, that might be the last lab I would run in this woman's case. It's important. It's going to yield some information. There's some things you can work on, but it's going to point elsewhere. It's going to give you clues for other things. And the reason, why are things off on the Dutch test? Why are things off in the endocrine system, or what we're seeing in the OAT panel here is just going to lead you to something else. And then you're going to say, well, I can give you some B vitamins. I can recommend some 5-HTP and maybe some, liver support here, but I don't know why that's happening. I need more information. Mm-hmm. And then you have to go back to your client and say, well, we need to run this lab, then we need to run this one and this one. And I think the person is going to be frustrated at that, little nickel and dimed. Be a phrase I would use, like, oh, here's another thing. Angelique wants to run another lab now, another one, instead of being upfront about it. I've had this happen before, and Reed's talked about this as well. Person said to him that's one reason why he ended up doing one of the steps that led to the group of tests that we use to analyze metabolic chaos in the body was the person said, hey, well, why don't we just run all these in the beginning? Let's just do them all. We don't have to do the hormone test. You're going to run these other ones eventually, aren't you? Let's go ahead and do that. So sometimes your clients do help you to become a better practitioner at times and push you a little bit and pull even better things from you or refinement in how you do things. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you're going to probably run into. If you just run a Dutch, will it yield some information? Yeah, sure. Lots of information there, but what can we take actionable steps on?
Glad you said that, Brandon, because the Dutch test or any hormone panel on its own, it doesn't really actually tell you that much. It's a great test. I often kind of refer to the Dutch test as kind of like the dashboard for the body. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking at those, dysregulated cortisol readings, whether it's the metabolized total cortisol or the free cortisol, then, it's kind of like a check engine light on your body. And the check engine light, though, it doesn't tell you what's wrong with the engine. It just tells you there's a problem. And that's often how I see dysregulated hormones, whether there's high or low cortisol, high or low estrogen, et cetera. Yes, that does present a healing opportunity and does call for a solid dress protocol, but it doesn't really tell you specifically, what's driving up that high cortisol. Is it food sensitivities? Is it gut infections? Is it poor liver clearance of hormones that necessitate some liver support? It doesn't tell you. So the Dutch on its own is not all that actionable without running a GI map or some of these other tests in conjunction with it, and that's why you need that correlation to kind of piece the clues together in the lab scene, the lab picture crime scene, as I call it, right? It's kind of like imagining like a detective with all the pins on the map and all the strings connecting all the pins and dots on the map together, right? It's kind of what we're doing. We're looking at how everything is correlated across the labs. That gives you a much more complete picture, right? So running like a Dutch test by itself, there may be definitely some things you can steer the client towards in terms of stress reduction and diet and lifestyle and optimizing their circadian rhythm and those sorts of things. But some of those unique healing opportunities like gut infections or hidden toxins in the system might go unnoticed.
100%. Very good.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
Angela, hope that helps with this, laying out these principles here, and hopefully that you can help this person see the light and come around to doing more and getting this dealt with. But appreciate you putting it out there for us and reaching out for help.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
Hope that gives her some good actionable information between last week's commentary and today's. I feel like that should be some good advice to work with.
Mm-hmm. She's a step closer. She says she wants to run the Dutch, so it's a step closer.
That's right.
Maybe we'll see here in a couple of weeks where it's at. So we'll keep this story going. Isn't that what they used to do with the old radio shows? Right? You tune in next week. So that's what we'll do. We'll use that old technique to grab listeners.
That's right.
Be continued. Cool. All right. Well, you guys again can reach out and say hey, or add to this, or you have some comments on what we're talking about. Has this been your experience? What did you do as a practitioner? Is this how you work, or did you work a different way and find out there's a better way to do things? We don't mind your comments either. So 347-637-1378 is that number. If you want to do that, call in. You guys that are on the line right now, several of you, hit one on the keypad and say hello to us. That's just fine. All right, here's maybe a little more of a business-focused question here that we can get into. It's been at the top of my list here for a little bit. Just haven't been able to get to it. Question is, would you call your potential client's first appointment the onboarding call 2? So maybe interestingly worded there, but I believe what this person is kind of asking about here is the first time that you talk to potential clients, this person that's not come on to work with you, sign up for your program to work with you, would you call that? What do you call that first call? Is that first appointment there? Is there a name to it? And I think maybe also we might expound on this and say, what's the goal of this first phone call that you make? So in the course, we call the first call you have with the potential client, like the solid real call, maybe scheduling something different, but like the first call you have with a client, call it an onboarding call. And you could call that, a free consultation. Maybe it might be one thing there. Not that I want to use free consultation, that phrase, but that's kind of the idea of that. Free consultation, enrollment call might be something. Maybe some sort of strategy session, a first initial coaching session. Different names you can call it. But I think whatever you call it, you have to define what this call is about and what the purpose and goal of this call is. So this onboarding call here is to see, the big thing I would say this is doing is to find out if this person is ready for this program. It is not to give a bunch of free advice. I would refrain from any advice really during a call like this, is to talk that person through, let them know how you work, what the process is, what your program is like, what your approach is to health, to get to know you a little bit, maybe your background, your story. There's an aspect of them getting to know you, but almost more importantly is you getting to know that client, that person, mainly because we don't want to work with people that aren't a good fit for the program, or it's not the right timing, or they're looking for something totally different that they think maybe they're getting from you. So there has to be the understanding there that comes up. So it's kind of a dual interview, right? They're getting a feel for you because you're calling this random good-looking guy you've seen on the internet or saw on a video with dark hair and cool gray streaks through it. Who's this Ryan guy? He seems like a nice guy. He seems knowledgeable, but I don't really know him all that well. So it's an opportunity to get to know a person. So there's that back and forth interview that's going on there. But a lot of it is for you to interview them because, as we're just kind of talking about here with Angelique's case, people don't often know really what they need and what their case is going to require actually to get better. We have a better feel for that. We've done it with hundreds and thousands of people, probably individually. So you have to help them to see what they need there, and because they don't know. If let's use an automobile analogy, if my car is not running right, I'm not the best mechanic. I have a little knowledge, but tearing apart the engine and getting in there and working on it over the weekend is not something that I do. I'm going to, especially with cars nowadays, with all the computers in them, I'm going to take it to the mechanic. And if I trust that mechanic, number one, they're going to tell me everything that needs to be done to that vehicle to fix it, to get it to run right, and ultimately maintain it as well. So that's sort of the process here. I don't go in and I tell the mechanic, hey, this is probably what's happening. I think this is what's going on here. I only want to do this, and I only want to spend this much money. Now fix my car. That's kind of silly, isn't it? The mechanics be like, hold on, let me get it up on let me get it up on the rack. Let's maybe run diagnostics on it. Let me listen to it, things like that. Sounds a little like an FDN practitioner, right? So let me get some data. Let me see what's going on, and then I can tell you what truly is the case and what it's going to require. So there's part of that as well. So it's a position we find ourselves in. I say that you need to be a person, obviously, of integrity, right? So whatever that person needs to get better, that is your goal, and whatever that takes. If that takes time, if that takes money, whatever it takes, we're going to just speak their truth. We know what we have. This is what it takes. I've done this before. I've seen this before. I've got experience. All of those things. You put that out there, and if the problem's a big enough problem for them, then they should come on to work with you. If not, that's a whole other tangent to go down. If that's a no or there's some kind of objection there, handling those objections. So I just say on that call, just know what's to be accomplished. They're not calling for free advice. Really, I would abstain from that because, again, going back to that, they're looking for some free advice. You say, yeah, you should probably stop eating gluten, and you should take some digestive enzymes and some probiotics, and you would, go read this book. I might do that. Tell them if they don't want to work with me for some reason, I might say, go read this book. If they, say I have $50 and it's all I've got to work with you, I might say that. But ultimately, I'm not going to give any advice away, because one thing is I don't have lab results in front of me, and probably not a complete history where I really feel comfortable doing that. And again, if they think, well, hey, just a couple supplements that Ryan recommends here, I'm going to feel better. Well, I don't think he wants that to be misconstrued that is the case, because they know it takes more than that. So that's one thing I wouldn't do is give a bunch of free advice to people. So that's my initial thoughts with that. So that onboarding call. Ryan, what about you? What goes through your mind during a call like that?
Yeah, and I don't have too much to add to that. That was really good. So I would totally agree with pretty much everything you said, and I would be hesitant to newer FDNs using this approach of 20-minute free consults, that sort of thing, of actually not calling it or marketing it as a free consult, even though it technically is free, but that does kind of convey this message, this message that you don't necessarily want to convey, that, during the call, they can just ask you a bunch of free advice, and, you want to be transparent, in other words, about the fact that it is a qualifying call or an enrollment call, or a complimentary call. Like, any of those words might be better verbiage or choices than saying free consult. I personally call it a qualifying call. I feel like in doing so, you're being very transparent about the fact that you are going to be selling to the client. So that way, you're not pulling a bait and switch or anything. They understand right from the time they fill out your application for that free call, that complimentary call, that it is going to be a sales call, and it is going to be a call to see if you are a good fit for each other, and that you are at some point going to pitch your services and your packages to the client, which is something I even will say at the beginning of a call. And by the way, for everyone listening, this is all called consent-based selling, right? So even in the language of the what you call the call, like a qualifying call or an enrollment call, and from the time you get them on the phone, letting them know that what the purpose of the call is, like stating the purpose of the call, saying that, I want to learn, more about your health history and what challenges you're going through. And then at the end of the call, if I think I can help you, then if I think I can help you and that we're a good fit, I'd be happy to tell you more about what my packages and services are. Does that sound all right with you? So, from the very, within the first 5 minutes of the call, at some point, you're basically asking for permission to sell to them, right? So, I think that can be really important for like setting the stage, and just in terms of the psychology aspect of it, you're kind of, you are asking for consent from that person at every stage in the process, so that they feel comfortable and they know it's coming, right? So they know that you're kind of taking the reins, taking control of the call, and they know that the purpose of that call is not just to ask you a bunch of questions and pick your brain, right? And like you said, Brandon, if you throw in a couple pieces of advice here and there, maybe for just the purposes of demonstrating your knowledge in a particular subject, sure, if that comes up organically, then that's great, right? But at the same time, you don't want to go down these rabbit holes of like telling them what supplements to take and what diet they should be eating. You want to keep things more general in nature, kind of laying out the process of how FDNs work, this kind of test note guess approach, how we help our clients to end the cycle of trial and error. I think it could even be very helpful on these calls to tell stories, right? Instead of getting super clinical and into the weeds of, metabolism and physiology and so forth. I try to really kind of rein that in and not kind of go in that direction, and stick more with like success stories of, I had a client just like you that also had chronic migraines, and gosh, we just kind of were at the tail end of finishing up our work together, and her symptoms are now, more than 75% improved. And now she's out hiking again. She just went on a vacation, those sorts of things. You can tell them a success story, right? Because people ultimately want to see themselves living their best life, living an optimal life. And that's going to resonate more emotionally with someone than saying, well, we're going to look at we're going to look at your COMT methylation index and, they don't care. They just want to see themselves living, they want to see themselves starting a business, spending more time in nature, spending more time with their loved ones and their family. That's what people want. They don't care how you get them there. They just want to know you can do it, and that you can help them, and we can, because this is the best approach to healing. I don't think it's unmatched what we do, because it ultimately is the most comprehensive. And yeah, those are some thoughts. But in summary, I would veer away from calling it a free call, and more would lean more towards calling it an enrollment call or a qualifying call. So that way, right from the beginning, you're not pretending like you're not going to be selling to them, right? I'd rather just be honest from the get-go, right up front, that at some point I'm going to be to them for my packages and services if I feel like I can help them and if I feel like it's a good match. If it's not, I'll steer them in another direction, send them some resources, send them kind of on a nurture path. There's different kind of ways to approach it. Or, if you didn't have a lot of experience of how to handle that, of like wanting to gently turn down a client, you can say that, you're all filled up at this time. Your client load is filled up, but you'll let them know when there's an opening. Those are some thoughts on that.
Yeah. Very good. I love all those. I like that consent-based sales there. I use a lot of those questions too. It feels good. It feels clean. It feels right. We're not trying to be sleazy salespeople. I think sales gets a bad rap. It's not. Sales is a fun process. Really, you're trying to help a person make a decision, and if it's going to be obvious if you got the solution for their issue or not. And when all those things click and come together, it's a magical call. It's a really cool thing. You can't help but get excited about that. It's going to come through in your voice, and you just know, because you've done this many times, you know what life's going to look like for this client a month down the road, and 3 months, and 6 months, or 2 years down the road. It's wonderful. So that's the good stuff. So guys, if you take what I said, especially what Ryan said here, and just let that be your skeleton, your context for doing these calls, and that's where you go about those, that's what you need right there. That'll take you there. It'll keep you from making mistakes. And because I think, I've said this before, it's our duty to be very good, and I'll say good, at communicating and doing these type of calls, because you may be the only person that they ever reach out to do a natural approach or to do something. And if you don't do things well, that person may not come on to work with you. Now I know there's times there, don't put the pressure on somebody that everything you say is going to be wrong, but you have to put some thought into this and lay these principles down, because people's lives, I think, are at stake, or their livelihood, or their quality of life can be at stake if we do a poor job with this. And I think that's also, ultimately, it reflects on FDN as an organization and what Reed's put together and what we try to put together with the way we work and the ethics and bylaws and things you agree to as an FDN practitioner and member of AFDNP. We take those things seriously. Some of that paperwork that you sign, we've got a code of ethics and things that we want you to follow, and that's to protect you, but also it's ultimately for the good of who you're talking to. So take some time and get good at those. Practice those with friends. Practice those with family members. Do as many of those as you can. Get really good at talking about what you do. That's important. Very good.
It's very true.
And also, and you can also, one thing too, you can add a layer of filtering before that. So if you are a really busy practitioner, if you know some things that people tend to, when you're talking with them, tend to be big objections or things that are deal breakers, you can have an application that they could fill out before they even book a call with you. That's a good thing to do. So, again, being more transparent about what you do, how you work. And if you see a lot of red flags by their answers, then you want to ask, several questions, right? Make it be something that's not, free check boxes they have to do. It needs to be something where they have to take maybe 10 or 15 minutes to fill out the application. Ask some questions there that, if you see certain answers, you already know that they're probably not really a good fit for the program. It's just not the right timing, just not what they're looking for. Nothing against them at all. It's not a personal thing. It's just, hey, are they a good fit for you? If you don't see those things lining up looking good, then you can save yourself some time and their time as well by saying they just, they don't qualify for it because they're applying for a call. It may just not be a very good fit. And that's just what it is right now. Doesn't mean that's forever. Ryan, you've probably had this before. I've had several clients that I talked to a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. And it's like, hey, cool, you're back. Awesome. How's it going? Well, most of the time they're even worse. And it just wasn't the right timing for them, for whatever reason that is. If that was something was going on in life, if that was, a financial situation, or sometimes the problem is just not big enough to do it yet. It's not bothering them bad enough, and that's all okay. So that's why it's not a pressure call. These aren't challenging pressure calls. We have to use some kind of techniques in sales and stuff like that. It's just like, hey, let's just be real and honest. Here's what it is. Here's what I do. Here's the process. Here's some this is how we go through. This is some success stories. This is what I do. And hey, is this a good match or not? So they're fun. You should be pumped up before those calls, and usually end really on a high too. And I like getting to know people. I love people's stories, where they're coming from, what they've been through. Sometimes people don't get to talk about those things very much, and so you're really giving them a gift there, a lot of value in that call itself. So make sure you get the right perspective. I think maybe that's the takeaway from this. So whatever you call it, make sure your perspective, what you're going into, is right. And it'll be a lot more fun that way, and you'll probably bring on a lot more people. Your close rate, if you want to say it that way, will increase. So the number of people that you could talk to, if you talk to 10 people, maybe before 2 of those come on, now maybe it's gone up to 4, and 4 out of 10 people come on to work with you, and then you can get to take them through that process.
Well said, and I agree with that point you made about making an application. I think that can be really helpful too, to, like you said, to kind of screen out potential clients that might not be a good fit, or to potentially even address common objections that occur in your practice that you want to screen for up front. So, for example, when I first started, I had a small handful of clients that had objections to taking X number of supplements every day. So what I did was, in my application process for that 20-minute call, I have a question there that says, would you be willing to take, up to 12 supplements a day, or something like that. And it's pretty much just a yes or no question. But that's something that I want to look out for. And if somebody says no, I might kind of try to handle that objection on the call and see what the issue is. It might not be a big deal. It might just kind of require some mindset or coaching through, figuring out what the issue is. Or it could be, that I had one client that actually had difficulty swallowing, like physically swallowing. So I said, okay, that's not a problem. Like whenever we can use liquid supplements, like different equivalents, or we can use powders that you can mix with water. You can't always find that kind of substitute or equivalent, but I would say 80% of the time you can for most things. And you can also work with diet and lifestyle as much as possible, because we know that supplements aren't a replacement for diet and lifestyle. That's why the word is called supplement and not called replacement, right? So there's an example there of a way you can kind of address things that come up commonly in your practice. Address them up front in your application, and that way, you can kind of screen for clients you take on, and make sure that you're taking on someone that's going to be in alignment with your method.
Very good. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, well, guys, the call is drawing to a close here, so I'm getting a notification here. We have about a minute left in the call. So, Angelique, thanks for these calls here on these questions. This is cool to see this progress forward here. So hopefully we'll get a good update here, maybe in a couple of weeks. We definitely invite that. Won't have a call next week for Thanksgiving, so you guys enjoy Thanksgiving for sure, if that's what you're celebrating. And I want to say thanks to Ryan for all this great knowledge we're laying down here, and for his insight. And look forward to the quick and nerdies and things like that. So,
hey guys, cool.
I got a hand raise. Is that Reed?
Yeah, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to you.
Oh, hey Reed, thank you.
You snuck in there on us. Hey Reed, thank you.
Yeah, good job, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Well, thankful for you.
Yep.
We are thankful for you, Reed. Thank you for everything you do.
Thanks, and thanks for everything you guys do. I just wanted to wish everyone a good weekend and happy Thanksgiving next week. Hope you get to spend some time with your family. I'm actually flying back to Ohio for the first time in a few years to see my mom. She's 90, and
wow.
Stay with my sister and brother-in-law, and should be a good time. I hope you guys get to share some similar activities.
Indeed, we will. Thank you.
Likewise.
Be safe travels.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Everybody have a good time.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Talk again in a few weeks, everyone. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you soon.